Good morning, everyone. Or bienvenue, guten Morgen, que pasa. How's everybody doing today? First thing, I want to thank ARC for the opportunity, and most of all, I want to thank you for your time and that you are dedicating, offering to me, and I hopefully will fulfill my number one objective when I get in front of a group, which is I want to stimulate you. Like me, hate me, agree or disagree. It's through stimulation and controversy and discussion that we make innovation happen. And so hopefully I will achieve that goal. The first thing I'd like to do is show of hands who the owner-operators in here. I'd like to know my audience. Whoa! Because it helps me adjust my thing. So can I see the owner-operator hands again? Okay, everybody look around. Okay, now I also traditionally always start every activity or presentation with a safety moment. So for this one, exits out if we have to exit. And if you looked around the room, vendors, owner-operators exit first. Please stay in your seats until the owner-operators and your customers exit. We appreciate it. Again, I'm Bruce Taylor. I'm with Suncor Energy. I'm out of the Commerce City refinery. Let me get trained here. Which one here? Oh, forward. There we go. Okay. Suncor Energy is based in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. We're Canada's largest integrated oil and gas company. Recently it was a merger with Petro-Canada. Our big core part of our business is our oil sands operation up in northern Alberta in the Athabasca region. Pioneers within the mining of oil. If you're not familiar, we can go offline and discuss how that happens. And now moving big into what's called in situ or steam injection gravity drain, where we don't have to mine, but we do remove it. We do have large conventional operations in natural gas and conventional oil operations offshore. Have ownership in the Hibernia effort and Terra Nova and other North Sea operations. We do have 4 refineries, Sarnia, Ontario, Montreal, Quebec, Edmonton refinery in Alberta, and I'm at the Commerce City refinery, a total of about 455,000 barrels. And we are in the renewables and biofuels. We have the largest ethanol plant in Sarnia, or in Canada, located in Sarnia, producing 400 million liters of ethanol every year. And we do have a number of wind projects. So, but what we're most proud of is the innovative work that we've done in the mining operations in our tailings recovery, and we are the first in actually totally recovering a very large tailing operation, and our great innovation in that whole management from the environmental sustainment part. In mobility, and everybody, how many here doesn't have a mobile device with them? Show of hands. How many here do not do online banking? How many here called a travel agent to make your reservations? Okay. I want to talk about mobility and what I've discovered, not only as in my efforts currently, but my background is fairly deep. I actually started 12 years at NASA in R&D, and I look back. If you were at the keynote with the discussion of the Mars lander, I worked in flight crew training simulation for the Apollo and Apollo 11 program. You want to talk about a fear factor for those last few minutes. You got 3 human lives in a container, and I really started looking at mobility, and I really looked at the whole Apollo capsule as a mobile computing device. People flying to the moon, landing on the moon, and they had nothing but a bank of red and green indicators. very different than what we have today and what technology offers. But mobility has been around a long time, and I've had a personal passion on mobility, and especially development of HMIs through the last couple of decades, and that's what I'd like to share with you and what I've discovered, not only what we're doing at Suncor in the Commerce City refinery, but mining some of that experience I've had over my 40 years in the industry. We are a mobile society since no hands went up. Everybody uses it. It's a proven functional commodity. One key message, I'm going to say it now and I'm going to say it at the end, when you approach mobility, moving poor or bad HMIs to a mobile device off from a PC or a laptop is not mobility. I'm going to leave it set for that to think for a while. It is an entirely new paradigm. How many people subscribed and watched virtually the last Consumer Electronics Show? CES. Hey, one hand. That's who you need to learn from about mobility. You're not going to get mobility and the real returns. You'll get some benefit, but until you really mine the consumer market, and you must approach it from a different perspective. Now, you may say that you don't have a consumer or that in your industry, like I'm in refining, but I do have a consumer. I have the employees. And I want to attract and retain the very best of the millennials coming out. And they expect that capability. It's something they inherently want. They've got it at home, they've got it, they came through school with it. We've got to present it to them. So we're a now generation. And I'm going to talk about a little concept that peer of mine and I put together around what we define as the real-time enterprise, and really understanding what the time constraints are and how your business runs is also key to defining a mobility solution. But there's a big change in the workforce that mobility can have a big impact on. I think the best quote that I've heard or read is from Jeffrey Moore. You may know him. He wrote a premier book called Crossing the Chasm. That was kind of the Bible back a number of years ago. But in a white paper that he wrote for the AIM organization just this last year, and it was a manifesto on taking over IT. But his quote was, "Why do I feel so empowered as a consumer and so inhibited as an employee?" You know, if I can hold up my smartphone and scan the horizon and find the nearest gas station or restaurant or whatever, why can't I take a smart device, point it at a bank of pumps, and identify those items and then click on it and aggregate all the information about that pump? I can do it as a consumer. You know, I've got restaurants in my locale where I can get online, see what their specials are. I can book my reservation on transit and they're ready for me. They know me when I walk through the door and I'm seated. But I can't do those kind of things as an employee. Consider the financial community and the trading community and what differs them and what we experience every day as consumers, and what are they doing different that we can get online and do the range of work that we can if we can't do it at the office in our own business. Is that ringing true to anybody? Show of hands, yeah? Right. Is that a challenge? And what I'm saying is, you know, don't look necessarily internally for the answers. You're going to have to look outside. Now, this concept of the real-time industry, and I'm not going to go into it a lot, but really a real-time industry to me is understanding the time constraints that your business operates under. You know, what is the velocity of your business that you need to make decisions to maintain your profitability, your safety, your sustainability? Because that's what you really, to me, you want to apply to the mobility. I mean, if I have a business where a quality upset, I can red tag something, put it in the corner and address it tomorrow. But I deal in the real-time business. If I have LP that I have a quality issue with during the middle of the night, people need to know about it because we have contracts that we have to meet in transfers the next day. So those are the types of things you really want to apply to a mobility solution. So the time increments will vary by industry, but they're independent of what your industry is and those time constraints. There are some things that you need to look at when you're presenting information up for mobility or into a mobility solution. Accessibility, and I'm going to address that again a little bit. You can't have dead zones. If it's going to be there, it's got to be there. The information you're presenting, it has to be thorough and complete. If you're asking people to make decisions, you can't give them half the story. So you have to really think through the use case and understand what all are the constraints that need to be evaluated. The information has to be rationalized or normalized. Time frames. I can't present data in a mobility, which is a real-time current reading, against a weekly or a monthly average or some reading that was last month. We've got to make sure that what I'm presenting is relevant and is normalized, that I'm comparing and putting things into context, apples to apples. It needs to be exception-driven. What I mean by that is don't present a lot of information on a mobile device that I have to search through to find the exceptions. Add the intelligence. I get alerts from my trading system when there's movements based on thresholds that I have set. I can set my personal thresholds. How many do that? In those trading systems, you can set, this is my threshold, this is when I want to be notified. You know, in our world, we look at a lot of the information that we deal with every day, and we're searching through tables and lists and everything looking for what we need. That's not efficient. That's not mobility. Mobility is the systems discovering the exceptions and presenting them to the people when they need to make the decision as possible. So it's informational, but also you want to try to make it exception-driven so that the system is driving the response. It needs to be role or use case. Not all functional groups look at information or data the same way. They have different, in the refining business, if I do have an upset, what the maintenance people want to look at versus what the planning and scheduling people want to look at, different people are going to be looking at, the logistics are going to be looking at that same information from different perspectives. So you got to have it role-based or use case so that they can get that. Let's see if I've missed anything. It needs to be auditable, reproducible. And most of all, the critical part is, with mobility, if you can consider the consumer market, it's entirely different. How many times has your bank upgraded their back-end systems that you had to be retrained on the front end with your interface? Did you get alerts to say, hey, you got to go to a training so you can make a deposit anymore? No hands. What happens when you do your typical system upgrade in your plant? You got to worry about training and everything else. So again, I'm just driving this consumer paradigm that you need to embrace when developing, a meaningful, valued, and it's got to be valued by the staff, capability. So again, the real-time enterprise is exception-based, it's aggregating the information, it's alerting people when they do need to make a decision, it's presenting the right information, and allowing them to make the decision that you go to the right place in the future. And it gets back into the analytics. So I want to expand a little bit on that proactivity. It identifies the need for attention. I mean, I have seen some HMIs, designed by engineers. They think in Excel, they think in rows and tables. So they present this big matrix that you have to scan back and forth in, and to discover what the issue is that needs to be addressed, and a lot of issues get missed. So it needs to, when an excursion or an exception happens, that mobile solution to be effective needs to take the people right to the right place give them the right information that they can make the decision in the time frame that's required to control the business. And again, don't want to miss any of these points here. It's, again, this concept of, and I'll get in, I think it's on the next slide. Well, I'll jump ahead. You need to, again, on this point about there's different use cases and people are going to look at data differently. I feel very strongly about one aspect that a lot of organizations today, they're all about the process. And so everything is process driven or process driven, depending upon north or south of the border where you reside from. Where I see the problem is that different organizations functionally look at the same data different ways. So to be successful, when you look at your data elements and you look at the source files and everything, you need to start thinking of asset-centric versus process-centric approaches. So that when you do these use cases that address the needs of the different functional perspectives, that they can get, that all of the information is there and you're not forcing functional groups into work processes that don't make sense to them. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. So you need to aggregate information around assets, and assets being, to me, three components. That is your physical or mechanical assets of the plant and my environment, people as an asset, and your product. For us, it's crude through production. Because again, people are going to be looking at that information, so I can create a use case front end that is specific to the role or the function, presenting the same data, but in the context of the decision that that function needs to make. What we're building is an example. We don't have the ability to put an iPad in the shop floor. We have to be intrinsically safe. So it greatly constrains what we can have. As a comparison, for those who aren't aware, an intrinsically safe tablet device starts at about $7,000 right now. So it's not a small investment. So we have some real constraints to deal with. What I'm talking about is we've got our operators have a handheld device. They go out, they hit an RFID, they know that they're at a particular asset, they're going to make a daily observation, and they see an exception. I've got a seal that's leaking, or it's wet. What do they want to do? They have a pick list. They can say, okay, here's all the information that I can gather about the pump, because when I hit the RFID, the device has already aggregated everything that's available and presents to the operator a list. Here's the things that you may need to look at based on your role. So in this case, says, okay, I've got a detection of a leak on a seal. Has there been a notification already put in or not? So I need to query the system, is there a notification? I've already aggregated that, yes, there's a notification. They can view the notification. Has the condition changed? Has it worsened? Notification was that I had a wet seal, now it's dripping. Now the criticality has changed. They can change the aspect, they can look, see if a work order's, or change the priorities, query what the status of the work order is, and then based on the conditions, they can just, we haven't got all this built, I'll admit right now, but this is where we're heading. We've got all the infrastructure, and this will be in place hopefully by the end of the year. We've got most of this capability in place. So they can check a box and say, okay, there's no notification in the system. Well, I already have all the asset information that's required to fill out the notification. So I check a box, I want to issue a notification, and this same information can be parsed into the incident system. The environmental organization can be notified that this now is going to be in the LDAR program. I can put it into the operator log for the shift turnover that we've now got an issue, but it's from one data collection. So that's a very highly valued perspective. Currently, I go out, I make the observation, I got to go in, go back to the control room, look for the notification, has there been one in, then I got to manually enter the information that the handheld already knows. And then I got to log into the incident management stuff, and I got to put that in. I got to send an email to the environmental department, and then I got to go into the operator log tool and do it. When I'm at the facility with the mobile device, I've RFID'd in, I know where I'm at, I've got all of the information that's required to fill out all of those systems, and I simply do it with one click. Talk a little bit about the infrastructure, and I really don't care for the term integration anymore. The scenario that I just discussed, that's interoperability. Okay, it's reuse and systems driving systems and interoperating with each other, not just integrating or aggregating data into different data sets. Again, I've already talked about the thing that to make this happen, one of the things that I've discovered or we've discovered is the need that we need to look at data from an asset-centric versus a business process-centric view. And also, it needs to be immune to change. In my entire career, I've always been, can I change operating systems? Can I create an environment where I can upgrade, update, change, and do all that kind of work without massive retraining and that? If my business changes, if the enterprise does an acquisition or divest themselves of a line of business, do I have to rip apart databases and undertake? How do I build systems that are immune to change? So this is kind of a taxonomy of what we've built and how we've segmented. We've got an enterprise service bus, which retains an asset model. Everything is publishing that information to those models. And I really refer to it as a federated data system. And then I can create the HMIs on top of it. Now, the critical component and the question I ask of vendors, and the majority of you are vendors out there, is to achieve this, when I'm making selections, I want to know, do you expose the schemas? Because I need to mine that information, because I'm buying an application in this model for its ability to maintain the business rules and the integrity of the data set that it has responsibility for. But how I use that data, I want to have the ability to define. It's my business, it's my data. So one of the other key questions I ask is how many, what does your native HMI look like? And what are the family of transactions that you support? And are they all programmatically available? Because the last thing I want to do on this device or handheld device is that when I look at the home page, that I've got 40 icons, and every icon has a different look and feel. That's not mobility. That's not mobility to me. I want to say that somebody logs in as an operator, and then they have the things that are role-based, that I don't have to say, okay, I'm going to go to the ERP interface, I'm going to go to the maintenance interface, I'm going to go to these different interfaces. I want one aggregated view. So I'm going to put on the top of that, in the visualization and orchestration, I'm going to put my own HMI to do that orchestration based on roles. So I'm drawing to the end. I'm over time here a little bit. So we put in an enterprise service bus. We're currently connected to an operator mobility. We're using ruggedized industrial handheld devices. We're connected to our ERP system. We're gathering real-time information or near real-time out of the historian. I'm linked to our quality system, so I have all the quality data about our products. We have a customized operator log tool that I can display on the mobile devices what the current operator logs are associated with a unit. And I'm connected to our document management system. Our first release, from them saying that I could go ahead to having the first release out, was 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Not a year, not 2 years, but 6 weeks. It is doable if you adapt the right architecture and the right approach. Other things, and I'll go just touch these real quick because I am over. There are impacts that we're seeing out of the mobility, and we're now seeing the enablement of virtual teams, that if we have an expert operator on a FCC, he can now support all our sites because he can see the same data that the operators see on the boards at the other sites. And now we're dealing with what I call fractional jobs. You know, they work 50% for this facility, they work 50% somewhere else. So with mobility and virtualization, it's just really redefining the whole workforce. The other thing I just touched on, one of the real key critical points, is if you do put this thing in place, it's got to be accessible. You can't put it in place and then have people fall into hotspots. Quickly, the pros. We've created a single, intuitive, one-stop shop for information, so whether they want P&IDs, PFDs, the quality information, or the current pump charge rates, they get it from one place. Now the cons with that is, with mobility, is work-life balance. You're not invading the home life of the individuals. But the real thing that I must stress is that if you put out alerts and you expect employees to have this access, or you're providing the access to the mobility environment, you've got to define to them what your expectations are that they're going to do with it. So if there's an alert, what is the role that they play? Not just putting it out there and then assuming. So part of the definition of the solution is set those expectations. Again, my key message is it's a new world, it's a new life. You got to look for new resources. I stress, compare what you've got internally to what you do in your personal life, and what you have on your iPhone or your smartphone, and try to understand the root cause of what you like about the smartphone and what you can't do within the job function. So with that, I'm running over. Thank you. I'm available for comment. I'm on LinkedIn, and appreciate your time.